Husbands, don't play defense. Whenever your wife comes to you with an issue, with something, complains about something, don't play defense. Don't get defensive. Because the minute you get defensive rather than listen to what is coming from the goal inside her heart, then you have lost the battle twice.
Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Chapter 11 of the marriage key. And man, what are you doing if you don't have the marriage key? I mean, you this is a must have on your shelf or in the digital shelf of your phone or your book, right? We're not in that era anymore where you have to have a book on the shelf, but you can definitely get it Amazon. All right. And man, let me just tell you, the audio version is amazing. All right. It is great. Keeps you engaged and very excellent work there. I just want to encourage you to cop the book. All right. It's available on audio platforms, not just YouTube, but other audio platforms as well. All right. So, sir, part 2 of learning womanese. It's like, I don't know, in our culture, and maybe you could attest. I don't know if you have the same experience or opinion, but we have a thing called Sunday dinner, right?
Yeah.
Traditionally, I could say for me and for a lot of people, it's rice and beans, right? Chicken,
Yeah.
salad, plantain, right? Stuffings if you can, cranberry if you can. But growing up, I found out it's nicer the day after. I think I don't know if you have that experience,
Oh yeah,
but
many
it
times.
yeah, the dinner for something happens the other day, I don't know. And that's how I felt about part 2 of Womanese. It got better in the second part of it.
Wow.
Right? It got better. And so I mean great concepts to relate to marriage, great points. And I think what this chapter did for me was I asked myself like, okay, I two things. I can see why womanese is important. And then the question for us, how can I apply womanese to these particular areas? So that was
Yeah.
pretty good. And how are you doing, sir?
Well, excited, excited to get into the second half of the communication chapter, the chapter of womanese, no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Should be
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Mm-hmm. So I want to pick your mind. Um, I like when you start chapters off with a bang, and I think you did that with this chapter. It was a bang right out the gate with the taking the car to the mechanic for repair, and likening on the marriage as that car. And then you also talked about restorers, people who want to bring back old cars,
Yeah.
and make them gleam again and shine again. Man, talk to us and share about your train of thought when you were penning this particular concept for the chapter.
Very, very important chapter. It's something very key to males, to the male side of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it tends to address the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's an issue of the heart. What type of heart should you have? Your heart determines your attitude. And
Right.
so we look at the attitude of mechanics or restorers.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I enjoy looking at. And I would see people who do vehicle restoration travel the country.
Mm.
They would even go to another country to find a part that that specific vehicle needs.
Right.
And this is a type of heart that causes someone to
Mm.
function that way. So my
Mm.
encouragement to the husband is to become an auto mechanic.
Mm.
Become an auto mechanic in the way you think, in your attitude.
Mm.
It's in your heart. If I could leave a couple points
Mm-hmm.
with you for this,
Sure.
a mechanic does not only repair a vehicle, but he maintains the vehicle.
Wow.
And if you maintain the vehicle, it limits the amount of repairs necessary. So in a relationship, if a male is capable of maintaining that relationship, then less repairs. Repairs will be necessary now and again, but less repairs will be necessary. That's what a mechanic thinks. They have a service interval that you bring the vehicle in and it gets service. In this
Right.
case, the vehicle is the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So some thoughts that I have with a mechanic is the first thing is patient. If he tries over and over and it doesn't work, he will try something else.
Right.
You hardly find a mechanic that gives up. So the first thing is patience. And in the book, it speaks about this. The second thing is understanding. A good mechanic, not just any mechanic, a good mechanic goes and study his craft. He looks at what is it about this particular car that makes it function.
Right.
He studies the system on it. And based on that now, he makes calculated, educated moves to repair this vehicle. So he looks for understanding. He understands the purpose of different parts of the car. And in a marriage, a husband would then, following this, understand the importance of different parts of the relationship. How important is the intimacy part? How important is understanding whether your wife enjoys or is pleased? He understands that part. He understands the importance of finance. He understands the importance of whether or not it was the wife's curse to work. And whether or not that she's working, whether she's overburdened with curses. And so because he understands that, then he makes changes. I'm speaking to you men. If you understand these things, you understand the purpose of them. You understand that for the female, her greatest need is not sex. It is affection. You understand this, then the words that you speak to her will follow. If you don't understand this, there's a problem. So understanding purpose is key. Another point I have is understanding the requirement of sacrifice. That mechanic does not care if you're upset. If he comes and he comes to you and he say, you need a transmission, and the transmission is $5,000, he doesn't care if you're upset. Because he understands the importance of sacrifice. If you want the car to work, then you will sacrifice. And there are many other points that I have, but to allow us to get going, hopefully we can bring them in a little later.
No, one thing I want to throw in here in the mix, what I think about a mechanic has to think very critically too.
This is right.
Think very analytically, if that's a word I think
that
it is.
Is right.
We're not thinking on a surface level. And that's something that crossed my mind when you were talking about husbands thinking as mechanics do in terms of their marriage. And you know, one thing I learned years ago about a car, sometimes it could be one small inexpensive thing that we're overlooking. Like for example, I remember years ago, I think it was my mom's car, and that's where I learned it. Her radiator cap, the seal had gone in, but I mean, it's not something you see right away. And long story short, that led to a head gasket job. You know, I was like $13 to $20 for one of those caps. But because of overlooking a small issue, over time it led to something in the thousands, right? And major inconvenience. So just you know, a few things I wanted to throw in there on this concept of the auto mechanic, the mechanic mindset, no?
And the key here is that changing that part would have cost much less. That is where the maintenance part would come in. And where the mechanic tries to restore the vehicle back to its former glory. That comes back down to the heart. And the most important thing here is the heart. The heart of the mechanic is to get that vehicle working. So the heart of the husband should be to get the marriage working, and he will look for all the caps and the rubbers and seals that got brittle and broke away, and he's going to replace them. Because why? You will see symptoms if you're looking. And symptoms are not things that you hit on and you abuse. It's not things that you fight. You don't fight symptoms. You look at symptoms, and symptoms will guide you to what needs to change to get that car working back properly, or
Right.
what needs to change to get the relationship working back properly.
Right. Yeah. So in this first, like, I would say concept in this chapter, I kind of I had to laugh because you said when they if a man takes his car to the mechanic and then the mechanic points out the fault, the guy doesn't take a baseball bat and begin to hit the car.
Yeah.
And I was laughing because that's exactly what we do, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is wrong, and then we begin to beat on the marriage or a spouse or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you talk about, sometimes a car going to so people seeing no good in a car, sending it to a junkyard, and then rather than trying to take it to the mechanic. So I had two questions here under like discerning, because let's say well, I know we're speaking to husbands more particularly, but let's say in a marriage somebody is taking a car to a mechanic, but it's pretty much totaled. Is there a point, or are there cases that an individual should discern that this relationship, this marriage is totaled? Is there a point there?
Yes, there is. That is the easiest part to determine when the marriage is totaled. Because we have only 2 times that a marriage is totaled. If these 2 things are not there, the marriage there's a possibility for repair. The first one is death.
Right.
Once there's a dying of one or both of the partners, that marriage is finished. Where you're going after that, the manufacturer says there'll be no marriage.
That's right.
But the second one that determines a total marriage, one that has been damaged totally, is what is the manufacturer calls harlotry. When one party in the marriage behaves like a harlot, meaning that person is sleeping around with either one other person or other persons other than his wife or other than her husband.
Right.
So if I leave my wife and I begin to sleep with one lady, live with that lady in her house or in my house, then that is harlotry.
Right.
Because I'm married to somebody and I am operating as a harlot would by sleeping with someone for a job. Okay? You might ask, well, why is that important here? And it is a matter of covenant. Whenever you have intimacy, sexual intimacy with somebody, you are making a blood covenant with them. And so the covenant that you made in marriage, if you begin to sleep around, you cut a new covenant with somebody else, defying and denying that old covenant. And so it is very easy. It is very easy to determine when it's total because it falls under death or infidelity as the 2, outstanding ones. I can't find any other. The manufacturer has given us no other. You can't say, well, this lady likes to quarrel, or this man likes to beat me up, so I'm going to divorce. No, it can't be total. He needs to get help. But the manufacturer, no, I'm not saying that you should allow a man to beat you up. Leave. But divorcing is a different question. And that's for a whole other book.
A whole other book. So let me swing it the other way. I talked about the question I kind of showed was like somebody, I guess, wanted to go to the mechanic, but not realizing it's a junkyard. Now, what about somebody or a couple or a relationship that is already headed to the junkyard? Like they're like, this is junkyard, and notwithstanding any of what you just said, what would be your encouragement, and what are some signs of hope? Because the car is still worthy of repair and still can, but they're not seeing it. What do you say then to people like that are just ready to throw in the towel?
For a marriage that is going to the junkyard, I would say that the husband would need some help. Because only a husband can cause a marriage to go to the junkyard. Now, that's a hard pill to swallow, and I know it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So, but the husband needs some help, because if the husband does things right, this comes from the manufacturer saying that your wife desire will be for you and you will rule over her. So I cannot explain any other way somebody that the wife desires for them, they will rule over the wife, but the wife doesn't want them again. She is tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. This marriage is finished. Why will somebody that has been cursed by nobody less than the manufacturer come to that conclusion? Sir, you are not ready. You need help in understanding how to behave and how to function as a husband.
Right.
So that husband needs help. And the minute he begins to get help and turn around, then he can avoid the junkyard. But if it takes too long and it reaches the point where the wife decides to walk in harlotry, meaning that she decides to get a new mate and live with that person, as far as the manufacturer is concerned, that is harlotry. Then he cannot repair that because it has been damaged and sent to the junkyard in that case. But yeah, it's the husband that needs help.
Right. Gotcha. It is a tough pill to swallow, because I could hear a lot of young men saying, no, that's not fair. What about her? What about this? What about that, right?
I am tempted to engage you and say, okay, you're speaking on behalf of the young men, so let's continue to speak on behalf of them. So the young man says, what about her? Give me an example of what about her.
It's like, what about her? She doesn't carry her weight in this relationship.
She doesn't carry her weight. Tell me more about the weight that she should carry that she's not carrying.
Stuff like maybe they're trying to talk with them, and every time we try to talk to her, it ends up into an argument. Or one of the main ones a lot of times is like housework. Like he feels like he's doing all the housework, she's not doing enough. Those are some of the things.
So which one do you want to hit on? Let's look at the work, the housework. Is your wife working?
Yeah.
She's working. Whose curse is it to work?
The man.
The man's curse. So
what if she isn't working?
what if she can stay at home and do the housework and you go out and work, sir? She will have all the time to do the housework. Then you won't have a complaint. If she's not working, then that's as simple organizing your house properly. As to say, while you're home, I want you to do this. I would like for you to do that. Can we agree on that? I don't see a wife if her desires for her husband. If you want to look at the part that whenever I try to speak to her, there's an argument. That is why we have this chapter. You need to learn womanese, sir. That is like you saying, every time I go to start my car, we have an argument. So then maybe you need to stop trying to start it and start to go and get the car fixed. You have a problem where maybe you slept with another woman. Let's go to that extreme. And now you want to come and talk to your wife about she's not providing enough for the house. Sir, something is wrong with you. If you expect for that to be normal, I've heard husbands that have cheated on their wives, made children, complain about their wife and say she's bitter or she's this or she's that. And I don't want to use any word that I should use because the word I'm thinking in my mind anyway. They're complaining about the wife being bitter. What do you expect, sir? You want them to be happy and pat you on the back and say, oh, make another child, go and get another woman. Man, fix yourself, sir. Fix yourself.
Yeah. What I want to encourage here with that is and I think this chapter talked about the principle of responsibility and fault. That certain things may not be our fault or your fault as a husband, but it is your responsibility to take leadership in how it's dealt with and restored.
Yes, this is
right. Yeah, and so I wanted to just take that same principle from this chapter and just insert it into what we're talking about here.
This is
Um,
perfect.
yeah, it's and I'm learning that too on the fly in terms of leadership in home and just in other areas of life that I I need to take leadership, and that doesn't mean necessarily I have to do everything, but you get the ball rolling, you put things in place and set things up for execution, right?
Yes.
But so man, I was blown away by the reference you made to the movie, and I want to go there because I didn't see that coming, right? It's like he shot
Yeah.
his best friend. Okay, what? Everybody is shocked. Everybody's like, why? And then when it swings at the end that this best friend did that to protect him, so he wounded him to protect him.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about that, and why you felt that was necessary for this chapter?
Well, the first thing here is the issue of friendship. And what is a true friendship? Your wife should be your best friend. I've heard of men having women that's their best friend and they're married and it's not their wife. Or they have males that's their best friend and it's not their wife. And then there's this issue where your best friend is your best friend. And I believe that your wife should be your best friend. I just want to throw that in there because we're talking about a friendship. That is where we begin to get mutual. But still, your wife should be your best friend. Now, why is that important? When this guy shot his friend in the leg, he knew that his friend would not come off that ship and would die. He knew that they could not win the war they were getting into. And his friend and close advisor would not leave his side. So it was a certain death for his friend. And he cared for his friend so much that rather than allow his friend to die with him, in love, he shot his friend. Now, I'm not telling men out there to go and do stupid things and hurt your wife and say you're hurting her to help her. You know, that is you're wanting to take it to an extreme and not using your head.
Good word of caution right there.
Yeah. He shot his friend because he would not have been able to stop his friend and getting his friend off the ship. But by shooting his friend, he covered two things. The main one being he saved his friend's life by hurting him. So he had to go to a hospital and get healed and get cared for while now I am going to fight this war and I know I'm going to die. And that is the essence of love, because he sacrificed that emotion of having his friend with him. He sacrificed that. He sacrificed the emotion of his friend being happy with him so that he could save his friend's life. The problem with marriages and relationships today, sir, is that the opposite happens. We go into relationship as men because sacrifice is not something that's necessary from women, wives in a relationship, although they're the ones that do it. Sacrifice is a product of love, and it is required by the men to love. And so the opposite is here today, where even when we're telling somebody we love them, we're talking selfishly about how they make us feel. And we sing these selfish songs about how they make us feel. And so we are trained to be selfish as males. So the opposite happens. The minute you do not let me feel, that I am important, you don't let me feel special, you do not let me feel validated, the minute then it's going to be hell for you. I just watched a video where a very popular musician that's in the right now in the news all over the place with a lot of accusations against him, took this lady and he was beating on this lady like she's a man. Now, I don't know if the person was a romantic relation of his, but that type of pain and bruising and beating that he was putting on that lady, he was not doing that to protect her because he loved her.
Nope.
He was doing that to let out his rage and his lack of self-control and his lack of an excuse to be called a human. You see? And that is not because of love and sacrifice. And maybe that same person, because I don't know the songs that he has written, but maybe that same person write a whole pile of love song. Rubbish.
Yeah.
You love yourself. Yes, you love, but you love yourself.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say that for males, the key with this is understanding the importance of sacrifice. That this person actually made a sacrifice. He preferred to lose his friend. He preferred to part ways with his friend early on. He could have held on to his friend until they died together. But he preferred to save his friend's life and in exchange for his.
Yeah.
And he did it by pulling that off that way.
Yeah. I want to, I don't know if this is a mindset in other cultures, but I know it's here in our country where genuinely, man, it's a question on the fly. I wanna put to you quickly on this point before we move on to another question now. I've heard some women don't think the husband or the man loves them if they're not hitting them. Why is that? And what is that? Why is that? Where is that faulty thinking coming from?
It comes from somewhere that I have no idea. Not even interest in where it comes from. The only time I have interest in where it comes from is when it comes from the husband.
Gotcha.
It doesn't bother me if the female thinks that way. She can think that way all she wants. It bothers me when it comes from the husband because he's capable of doing it. And if he thinks that way, he will do it.
Right.
And you will beat on your wife because you have no value for her. One of the important things in this chapter is the issue of value. And the question was asked, how much do you value the relationship? Because if you value a car, maybe it's a car that your dad gave you and your dad has passed. And you won't stop at anything because of the value of that car to you. Not because it's valuable. It's valuable because of who gave you. And you will find whatever part to get it working and to keep it looking nice and etc., etc., etc.
Right.
It comes down to value. So if you value a person, you will want to protect them and care for them. If you value your dog, would you want somebody to hit on your dog the way you hit on your wife? Would you want somebody to hit on your mother the way you hit on your wife? Would you want the police to hit on you? So if your principle is true, sir, then when you go on the street and the police meet you, he does not love you if he doesn't pop a cap in your somewhere on you.
Yeah.
If he doesn't beat you down and choke you and put his leg on your neck.
He don't love you.
He doesn't love you because you see a principle is not only a principle when it doesn't apply to you. It's always a principle. So the woman that says that, that same woman is the same woman that the man told something nice to before she gave herself to him. It is the same woman that loves watching romance movies. So if you really believe that, then you would shy away and stay away from movies where the women are being treated nice. You would not call that love because then the man is not beating on the lady. It's just rubbish, and that's why it doesn't bother me where it comes from. It just bothers me who it is coming from in the marriage, whether it's the male or the female. You, the female, can think that all you want. A good husband will teach you how you should be treated. If you don't know, if your father didn't grow you up in an environment that showed you how you should be treated, a good husband will cover that for you, mommy. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. I think I have probably one more question here, and I'll take some of your final thoughts after that. So I think the discussion segues us into this last question that I have for today, because there's a very, very relevant and timely point. Actually, I think it's a timeless point that this chapter covered with don't be abusive. And then you use, there were pretty much 3 areas. You actually spoke a great deal about the physical aspect of it just now. And then it goes sexually, and then it goes verbally. But to the sexual part, there was a question that I'm hoping can be a point of encouragement for males. When it comes to sex, and you made a very good point in the book also that they can actually still be rape within marriage.
Yeah.
But what what encouragement, man, do you have for men, husbands, males who misunderstand when their wife says no to sex as rejection? You know, when she says no, um, a man can feel rejected very quickly like that and feel like she's
Yeah.
rejecting him. But I've been learning that's not necessarily so. What encouragement do you have there? And how, and more, let me add one more bit to this. How can womanese be of value here?
Yeah, I think the second question tends to answer the first one. It's a perfect opportunity for womanese here. Because a wife not wanting to sleep with you is an issue that can fall under many different areas.
Right.
But it's also a symptom.
Okay.
Because symptoms are joint to problems. You can't have a symptom without some problem. That is very rare. The same way the communication determines the type of relationship. If all the parts on your car is working, then your car will have a certain sound. The minute that sound changes, that means a relationship has changed. Maybe there was grease in a part that now there's no lubrication, and that relationship has changed. You start to hear noises, a relationship has changed. So all the songs communicate to you a change in relationship. So if your wife doesn't want to sleep with you, that means there's a change in some relationship that you, the husband, should have the pleasure to seek out. You shouldn't be so self-centered and so selfish that you want to ignore what your wife might be going through or what she might be lacking. She might be deficient. She might be suffering from a deficiency in attention and affection from you. You see? And you can't want to ignore that and turn around and want to sleep with her. Do you think it's a prostitute you're married to? Then that's fine. Then you just pay some money and you're good to go. You see? This is not the case. So womanese is perfect. It's a perfect opportunity for womanese. You should be having to, I don't want to sound terrible, but you should be having to push your wife off you. Okay?
I get away. No, not
You
get
understand?
away, but you know, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you some examples of what can be some ideas that womanese would help to guide you to. So your wife doesn't want to sleep with you. She tells you no at this particular time. One of the first things could be that she feels unclean. Maybe she prefers to take a bath. And when you came, she felt unclean. And after she's come from work the whole day and she went by the stove and now she's sweaty and she doesn't feel sexy, she doesn't feel, you feel that is the case? Tell her, let's take a bath.
Nice.
And you bathe her, you rub her back with the soap places she can reach because you know, her hands don't allow us. And now she feels clean. And don't push yourself on her any either. You understand? Maybe she's sick. And you don't even care to check. Maybe she's in pain. Some women have spine problems and disc problems. And if you're not careful in sleeping with them, or if they have to work jobs that are tedious, you have to sit for long, they can come home in pain. And instead of you checking to see what's happening, suddenly you're upset because she doesn't want to have sex with you. You know? There's also the other issue that the woman might not feel satisfied.
Wow.
And in this case now, you, for weeks and weeks and weeks and now years, you satisfy yourself in 2-3 minutes. And she just feels used. Man, after a while, nobody would want to continue that type of relationship. You know? So these are things that you have to look at. You have to look at the emotional situation. Are you showing her affection? Is she coming from work busted and tired and fatigued and abuse that work mentally, verbally,
then
you have to check the physical. Is she in pain? Is she tired?
Yeah.
Does she feel clean? You see?
Yeah.
Etc.
Digging for the gold, as you put it in this chapter. Digging for the gold. Sir, I mean, man, I really like that, how practical and how you flesh it out. Very, very, very good. Practicality is always great. So, what are your final thoughts as we land this transatlantic flight of womanese? It's transatlantic because it took 2 parts. You know,
Yeah.
when you're flying within a region or within like the USA, it doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
But when you gotta fly transatlantic in the big jets, it takes 2 parts. So
Across continents.
Yeah, we just crossed the continents of communication with this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what are your final thoughts, man, as the womanese is landing?
Well, you made a key statement just now, and I would just want to end with that. It's a very important statement you said. You said digging for the gold. If we as men can look at what's inside a woman's heart as gold, then her whole attitude will be right towards her. Whenever she says anything, we want to dig for the gold. We want to, if a question is appropriate, ask it, but I would prefer refraining from questions to find that gold and to use other means to search for gold. But digging for gold, number one, we see it as gold. We see womanese in finding out what is there. We are looking for gold. That is so awesome. So I love that you said that. There is gold buried in her heart. And when she doesn't want to have sex with you, or when she complains about something, or when she criticizes you about something, there is gold hidden somewhere in her heart that you should sift out and try to find. And when you find that gold, sir, life will be smooth rolling for you. I can next to promise you that. So with that gold in mind, I want to say this and end with this statement. Husbands, don't play defense. Whenever your wife comes to you with an issue, with something, complains about something, don't play defense. Don't get defensive. Because the minute you get defensive rather than listen to what is coming from the gold inside her heart, then you have lost the battle twice. You have missed what she's saying, one, and two, you have separated away from her even more, confirming to her that she should keep things hidden, confirming to her that she has no value to you, that yes, you used to care when you were dating, but not now. So don't play defense, and rather dig to find the gold inside her heart.
Digging for gold. Guys, dig for gold. Get your pick, get your shovel, and dig for gold in your relationships and your marriage, all right? Dig for gold. This has been a great conversation as we did chapter 11 of Womanese Part 2, and we're looking forward to chapter 12 next time we get together. Remember, get the marriage key. Check it out. Amazon, YouTube, and other audio platforms has this book available. All right. So until next time, I am Shane, and on the other end,
I'm Sylburn. Take care.
Later, guys.